How do I make a change in my life? June 25th is about a month away, and on that day, the world will commemorate and celebrate the 1-year anniversary since the death of the king of pop, namely Michael Jackson. I'm sure there are a few things in your life that are ironed and seared into your memory so that no matter how old you get, you will never forget certain things. And perhaps one of those things is that you will never forget where you were or what you were doing or how you felt the moment you found out that MJ had passed. Perhaps you were working and you stopped what you were doing and you went on CNN.com. Perhaps you was at the house chilling and you turned the channel only to watch everything that was unfolding as arguably the most famous man of our time passed away. When Michael Jackson died, it was a renaissance, a rebirth of music, if you would. For me, being a young man, only 23 years old, many of the things I know of Michael Jackson, I heard from secondhand information. But after his death, the airwaves and the televisions were flooded with his music, with his videos, and with his concerts. And I was able to see firsthand exactly why every artist since has tried to copy all of his moves. Matter of fact, when he died at his funeral, he was heralded by many to be the greatest entertainer to ever live. I mean, Mike was bad. He could sing and he could dance. Matter of fact, he was so bad that he was famous not only in the United States, but all over the world for most of his life. Mike was able to do some things 20 years ago that have still not been able to be duplicated, even with the technological advancements that we've experienced. I still cannot figure out how in the Smooth Criminal video, he leaned all the way down to the ground without falling on his face and then came back up real smooth. Of all the songs I heard and of all the videos I saw, it was one that stuck in my mind in particular, and that song was Man in the Mirror. Listen to the first verse and the hook, if you would, of this song, Man in the Mirror. I'm gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good, gonna make a difference, gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. Can't you see I'm moonwalking? I see the kids in the street with not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? Watch the poetry, a summer's disregard, a broken bottle top, and a one-man soul. They follow each other on the wind, you know, because they got nowhere to go. But I want you to know, sing with me, I'm starting with a man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. He's preaching, no message could have been any clearer. Talk, Mike, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Thank God for Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, Michael Jackson. What he so poetically talked about in Man in the Mirror is reflected here in the lyrics of Psalm 101. For David likewise says, I want to make a change in the world around me, but David recognizes that it's fundamental to me, before I can make a change in the world around me, I have to first make a change in my own life. So the first thing we see in this text as it relates to how you can make a change in your life is, number one, you got to correct yourself. Correct yourself. David makes an emphatic declaration that he's going to focus on the way of integrity. 9 times in this chapter, he makes the statement, I will. Look, verse number 1, he says, I will. Verse number 2, I will. Verse number 2 again, I will walk within my house. Verse number 3, I will. This 2-word phrase shows us whose responsibility it is of making the change. Notice the pronoun I is used to clarify the responsibility and the liability. The reality is that we're all professionals at playing the blame game. That we always like to point the finger to somebody. You remember in Genesis chapter number 3 when God came walking through the garden in the cool of the day, he said, Adam, where are you? Adam said, well, I hid because I was naked. God said, who told you you was naked? Adam said, the woman that you gave me, God. She was naked. She brought me the fruit. She was naked. She bit the fruit and it seemed to her she was naked and I just was confused. Then God turned to the woman and said, woman, what is this you have done? She said, the serpent. Because they were able to pass the buck even from the Garden of Eden. But here in the text, God says, David says, if what I will. Whenever we're caught in a sin or find ourselves not doing the right thing, we always maximize the circumstance but minimize our responsibility. But this is deep. I'm finna say something as deep as Greek. Watch this. If you want to make a change in your life, don't miss it, you have to make a change in your life. The word will is a future tense word of declaration. None of the things David is speaking of has yet to happen. But he is speaking forth a righteous future that he's adamant about fulfilling. You can always tell how serious someone is about what they're saying. And the truth of the matter is the devil knows when you're serious and when you're not about making a change. So if you're going to speak about making a change, be for real this time. So what does David say as it relates to correcting myself? The first thing he says is that if I'm going to correct myself, I got to change what I do. He said, I got to change what I do. Look in verse number 2. I will behave wisely in a perfect way. Or when will you come to me? I will walk within my house with a perfect heart. David in this verse is talking about integrity. And we know that integrity is what you are when nobody else is around. That's why he says within my house, within my private quarters, in the place where I will otherwise let my hair down, relax, and let down my facade and my guard. It is in that place that I want to walk with righteousness and integrity. He's also talking to himself to show us how integrity is something that goes on internally. Now notice that God is not a man. God is not impressed by your spiritual gifts, by your talents, by your looks, by your money, by your education. Matter of fact, in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, God told Samuel, he said, I don't see like you see. He said, man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. And matter of fact, that's a moment of preaching right there, because there's so many people who looked at your outward appearance and they counted you out. But there's anybody here who was grateful for God who said, you know what? I look in your heart and it's like looking in a mirror. I see potential in you that nobody else see. I don't care where you from. I don't care what you done. I see me in you and I see me in your future. Is there anybody here grateful for God able to see something in you that nobody else can see around you? Your behavior in public, in large part, is as if every day is Halloween. Put on my costume and I come out into the world. But the real you comes out in intimate places when you think you're alone and nobody's watching. Who you are is not who you intend to be, but who you practice being every day. Intentions are only as good as actions. When the two are disconnected, you become a Christian trapped in a sinner's body. And in this text, David says, I will make this change by, first of all, changing what I do, changing my behavior. B, he says, changing what I see. Look at verse number 3. I will set nothing wicked before my eyes. I hate the work of those who fall away. It shall not cling to me. David makes up his mind to be righteous, and then follows up that resolve by guarding the gates to his mind and his heart. Isn't it funny that as soon as you make up your mind to do the right thing, the world sets it up for you to go right back to where you're trying to come from? There's a direct connection between your senses, your mind, and your heart. This is the pathway that sin travels to contaminate us. First of all, you'll see something or hear something. It'll enter your mind, you'll think about it, and if you don't be careful, it'll enter your heart and become a part of you. The process of sin begins with one sensual impulse. See the wrong thing, smell the wrong thing, hear the wrong thing, and you can fall in sin just that easy. Matter of fact, some of y'all can't see the wrong person. You can't see the wrong person or they'll remind you of what you're trying to run from. Some of us can't smell no weed. Because the minute you smell some weed, you'll think back to your days in college when you were chief smokes a lot. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. You know I'm telling the truth. Pavlov has a theory called classical conditioning. Pavlov's theory of classical conditioning says that you can condition a dog to salivate without even seeing food. The process of classical conditioning is like this. You feed the dog, and every time you feed the dog, you ring a bell. so that the dog would come over time to associate the sound of the bell with the sight of the food. So you bring the dog to the food, the dog's mouth begins to salivate, and you ring the bell so that the dog will associate the sound of the bell with the sight of the food. Eventually, the dog can be in another room, can simply hear the sound of the bell, and the dog's mouth will start to salivate before the dog even sees the food, because you can condition the dog for one sensual impulse to trigger something in the dog to let the dog know what's coming. And the truth of the matter is, the devil got a lot of us classically conditioned. He's allowed you to see some things that's conditioned to your flesh. So you see the wrong person and your mouth starts salivating. You go to the wrong place and your mouth starts salivating. Matter of fact, the devil got us on autopilot. He ain't even got to be around to know you gonna sin. All he got to do is ring the bell and walk away, because he got you trained to fall. But is there anybody else in here this morning that can testify, devil, I need to be retrained? I ain't going for what you're trying to make me fall for. I don't care what I see, what I hear, what I smell, or what I touch. He says I got to change what I see, because if I don't be careful, the wrong thing I see can make me fall already. They come calling you at 11:30 at night. Don't answer the phone. Matter of fact, they got their own ringtone. Soon as you hit a ringtone, your mouth starts salivating. He says, I got to change what I see. Not only do I need to change what I do, not only do I need to change what I see, but see, he says, I need to change what I think and desire. Look at verse number 4. He says, a perverse heart. The heart is the seat of your emotions, the seat of your decision making. He says, a perverse heart shall depart from me, and I will not know wickedness. Your thoughts are input as a computer language that determines which software you allow to run on your hardware. Any PC bogged down with too much harmful software, spyware, or files operates much slower than the one that is protected from infected programs. Have you ever noticed that it's much easier to download a harmful virus than it is to get rid of it? You can download something with the click of a mouse, but then you need to call in the Geek Squad to come clean your computer from something you download with the click of a mouse. And that's exactly how all of our bad habits started. You started that bad habit real easy with the click of a mouse. You went when you was invited somewhere you probably never should have went. You did what you was invited to do, something you probably never should have did. And now 10 years removed, you're still fighting something that you downloaded with the click of a mouse. Matter of fact, you thought you got rid of it. You went to the CPU of your heart and hit delete. But little did you know, it didn't delete. It just went into the recycle bin of your mind. Matter of fact, time passed by, you thought you were over it, and you found yourself doing the same thing you thought you was delivered from. But is there anybody who can testify, God, I need you to call in your Geek Squad? Matter of fact, God, I need you to set a firewall around my mind. I need you to protect me from myself, because I'll download some things I never should have downloaded. I'll put some things in me that never should have been in me. God, have mercy and clean out my mind.